Hey besties, I'm Victoria, and welcome to the Book Besteas Podcast, where the books are good, the takes are honest, and the tea is always hot. Today we are talking about the finale of the TOG series, Kingdom of Ash. Are y'all ready? I certainly am not. I had to dig deep into my core to figure out how I'm going to cover all of this thick book into one episode, but I'm going to try. So bear with me. Thank you so much to all of you who have joined us along this amazing journey of both our podcast as well as the TOG series. I have announcements to make. First off is that going forward, I will be running this show by myself. I will hopefully have some guests along the way, including our former co-host Jet, along with people who have showed so much support and love for the books that we love to talk about. So please look forward to those opportunities. And in addition to that, I would like to open up the opportunity to chat even more with all of y'all about what you're specifically interested in. So that means that you don't have to be on the show as a guest. You can just submit something that you were really excited to talk about in the book and in advance of the episode, so that in the episode itself, I could talk about it. And in fact, probably one of our first and longest fans, Alka, she submitted some points that I'm going to be talking about today, and I'll let you know when I bring up her 2 points that she submitted. So I'm just really excited to be able to share more opportunities with having conversations about moments and quotes that really stood out to all of you, and then maybe you'll one day join the show. All right, everyone, so let's dive into the plot points of Kingdom of Ash. How do you feel about the great reveal of who the enemy really is? And do you really think that Erewhon was the enemy, Maeve was the enemy, or the gods? In other episodes, we talked about how Maeve was someone who seems more like a gray character. She's really power hungry, but I didn't really think of her as like the ultimate villain until this book. But at the same time, it seemed like she had a limit. She really did still want to rule the people rather than convert all the people to Vogue like Erewhon did. Maeve was almost a victim in my opinion, because she was someone who was trying to escape a really toxic situation, or supposedly. So I think Erewhon, being the husband's brother, trying to trap her and take over this whole world, I think he's more of a villain than Maeve, but I'm not sure. What do you think? And then finally, the introduction of the gods. Guys, this again, SJM hitting us with, being like, hey, I gave y'all all the hints along the way, you just didn't take it. Well, at least for me, right? Maybe some of you called it, and if you did, let me know in the comments. But for me, I was so shocked just how big of a role the gods had to play in terms of being the evil ones. We knew Elena from book 1, and we knew about Gavin, and then we finally get to learn about this whole backstory. But the bigger problem is, why do they all seem so coordinated? It felt like, where did this big scheme come from in the end? But again, it was really cool how Aelin always figures out a way. And of course she did. So let's now dive into chronologically the plot points. So first, our Aelin is captured and tortured. Ugh, okay. Aelin has been through so much physical torture already, both in Endovier and as an assassin under Erbin. So we already know that she can handle physical torture. It's painful, but that's not the thing that is the biggest struggle for her at this time. Right now is that she feels like she failed. In the last episode, I was saying she promised her team, her court, that she was going to build an army, and she freaking did. And I was so proud of her. But I don't think she realized that. She didn't realize that she didn't know that everyone showed up after she was taken. She thinks that she failed. And she thinks that the ones that she loves are going to suffer. Mental torture is already hard, but then on top of that, she's in this coffin. I mean, that in of itself is it's a non-death. And then Fenris having to be the one to watch her. Guys, I did not see it coming that her and Fenris were going to be kind of besties by the end of this, really. And because they went through this crazy trauma together. I'm so proud of Fenris for breaking the blood oath, for standing up for what he believes in. And I know, like, I think along the way, what I felt about Fenris is that there's something a little bit more to him. This sense of nonchalant that he gives off is actually a cover for the trauma that he's facing. And now we finally learn it's because of his twin brother. The man that he is, he still stepped up for Aelin because they were both being tortured. I mean, him having to watch her being tortured and not being able to do anything about it was in and of itself torture. So I'm proud of both of them for getting through that. And then our crew going to look for them. I mean, it started to get a little frustrating when, you literally just missed them, or you think that you just missed them, and then you're like, should I try there? Should I try there? I don't know. And it reminds me of Assassin's Blade, when Sam, like with the opposite of that, where Sam just somehow is able to find her in the sewers and get her out, like literally right before she's about to die. The most heartbreaking moment though was when she was literally screaming, take it off, take it off, take it off. Oh my God. I cannot fathom like how much emotional pain she was in to be screaming that over and over again. Like, she's never in this long series has she ever said something like that when she was being tortured or when she was in pain. So that was just probably the peak of her pain of this whole series. And the way that May figured out that was the way to do it, like, I guess in a sense, now going back to this idea of who is the greatest villain, maybe that makes Maeve the biggest villain because she knows exactly where to hurt her the most. All right, next plot point. The war for Terrasen. Because Aelin is gone, Lysandra and Aedion have to step up. We've already talked so much about how Lysandra is just clutch. I mean, as a shapeshifter, she can become anything. I did not think that, damn, she's gonna become Aelin, right? Like, whew. And that was just so cool and so smooth, the way that she did it. I mean, yes, there were times when they almost got caught. Because Lysandra's so perceptive and has been sticking with Aelin for so long at this point, she knows exactly what her Aelin's tells, and then she's able to really embody Aelin. But then, Aedion liking Lysandra, but then Lysandra being Aelin, and then the whole, like, having a kid thing. This is a big one, right? And tell me which camp you're in. On the one hand, there's people that are like, this is what needs to be done to continue the line, to make sure that people are going to be loyal to the kingdom. And then other people are like, no, that's so wrong. Like, why should Aedion's child with Lysandra have to be considered Aelin's child? He'd have to keep looking at Lysandra as though Lysandra is his cousin, who he has no romantic feelings for. I'm in the camp of the latter. I've always been a Aedion supporter, I guess. And I think that it would be too much, way too much to ask of him to do this, to literally give up his child and give up his love for Lysandra. Because, I mean, like, okay, giving up his love is a strong word. She could still, in private, be herself. But always in public, she's got to be Aelin. And that would just be, like, I don't know how I would process that as Aedion. So, guys, let me know what you think of that. But to me, that was not cool. And I also feel really bad for Aedion because not only was he left out of so much of the deliberations and the planning and all this, and also the blood oath until, later on. But on top of that, he's being forced to do something physically and like change his life forever with plans behind his back. Obviously, he kind of wonders like, oh, does Lysandra actually love me? Or is it because she's just trying to like have a baby with me because of her plans with Aelin? So I'm like, I understand why he got so upset. I do. That said, I think that she's not the one who deserves to be the main recipient of his anger. Because Aelin is the one who's scheming all of this. And yes, she has a leadership kind of burden to play. So she's having to make the hard decisions on behalf of the greater good, whatever she sees that to be. But Lysandra also has to, on the flip side, see the love of her life be married, quote unquote, married to Aelin instead of herself. She has to be Aelin for the rest of her life. And then the concept of Aedion and Lysandra holding the line. And if it were a tandem read and it was Aedion and Lysandra in one book, kind of like Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms, then the Aedion Lysandra book would have been extremely frustrating. And it would definitely highlight their own frustrations of needing to constantly hold the line, not knowing what's going on with the rest of the crew, whether Aelin is safe or not, pretending to be Aelin, and still coming up with all these excuses to the army as to why they can't really like move forward, why Aelin isn't showing up, to make the big shebang happen. And so I understand their frustrations, and it's building up. They're losing morale themselves, let alone all the people around them. And at that moment, I almost gave up on their part. I'm like, guys, you did more than enough. If you want to just walk away from all this, I don't blame you. And then on top of that, going back to freaking Darrow, okay, guys? Like, yes, in the end, we kind of understand somewhat of why he is the way he is. But still, the fact that he's still giving Aelin so much shit. And then on top of that, literally threatening her. And I'm just like, dude, like, who the fuck do you think you are? But anyway, okay, backing off, calming down. Calming down, okay? But they already were in such a difficult situation. Darrow just had to make it so much worse. I mean, guy, if you are going to make all these demands of other people, contribute more. Do something more, okay? Taking care of Lysandra's little girl, Evangeline, is helpful. It's important, but it's not enough to justify your behavior. So Dorian and Manon working together to secure the final weird key. Dorian and Manon, I mean, I've been cheering for them since the beginning when he said, I'll bleed whatever color you want. Like, they're a spicy couple, and I love, love, love it. And I love that they get to bond more. They really get to better understand each other. Because yes, she came in to swoop to Edelin to save him, and then they obviously had like moments here and there, but it was never something as deep as what it is now. And I love that. And then them just doing it, but it wasn't just pure sex. Like, the way it's described is as though Manon is seeing a different side of herself. Like, we've talked so much about Manon this whole time has been living her life basically for the witch's cause, for her grandma's will. And then she finally breaks ties with all of them and forges her own path. She needs to figure out who she really is. And I think a part of that is exploring her sexuality, which, and seeing, but it's not just the sexuality in and of itself. It's the idea that she could let someone else be more dominant at times, and she could feel the softer side of herself. She could kind of go with the flow instead of being the leader. And in the bedroom, Dorian really compliments that for her. And then she's starting to be like, there's that part of me I never realized. And that entices her even more with regard to their relationship. Not just the sexual side, but also the emotional support side. In her process of trying to figure out who she is, she's also wondering, like, can I step up? Because she might be able to be the Croaking Queen, but, can she really take on this role? And she'll never obviously explicitly say, like, oh, can I really do it? But Dorian kind of notices that about her, which is, the man Dorian is, I'm not surprised, but he notices that she has hesitations and she's, a little bit of self-doubt, right? Dorian is a quick learner. He didn't get too many chances when he was growing up to politic. Like, he would sit in some of the meetings, but for the most part, his father mostly kept him out, right? But he was learning through Aelin. And so how Aelin got Rolf's armada to get involved in the war, he was walking Manon through how to get the Crokins to be on board with her. And I love that. I think it's like not only on the emotional support side, but tactical side, he's helping Manon. They're such a power couple, guys. Now Manon is mobilizing the Crokins, and Dorian is now trying to figure out how he's going to become a king. Because just like with her, he's assumed a new identity as a leader of a kingdom. And the first thing that he did was run away from it, understandably. We already talked about that. But that he has to come to terms with that and figure out what it means to really be king once he goes back. And tell me if you would also love this. I would love for a spin-off series with Dorian and Manon. Let's get more of them. And then also, obviously, I would love some smut, but a girl can dream, right? Girl can dream. Okay, Next plot point, the witches' story. So the Iron Teeth and the Croaken witches have their final showdown. This is huge. This was building up for books upon books. As soon as we met Manan, we knew that their ultimate enemies were Croakens and getting their land back from the Croakens. Final showdown between the witches. The 13! There was so much bloodshed, so much scheming, so many people, like all the characters that are alive were involved. And then yet, the moment when the 13 sacrificed themselves, guys, that was the biggest heartbreak out of this whole book. Possibly for me, out of the whole series. Even more than Sam dying, even more than Aelin being tortured. Take it off, that's really deep for me. But the 13 sacrificing themselves. And honestly, I did not see that coming for myself, like feeling this strongly about them, because all along I was like, they're really cool. I love Manan, I love Astrid, but I didn't get to know too much about the rest of the 13. But I think it was this concept of, even though the 13 weren't completely like so intertwined with the rest of the people who are trying to save the world, they're still willing to make the sacrifice. The yielding, guys. The most beautiful and sad, bittersweet, I guess, part of that whole thing is that when they yielded, they emanated light. Even though the witches were all about the darkness, but they emanated light. They brought light and beauty to the world in their sacrifice. I mean, guys, that's gonna live on with me forever. The 13. And I've been saying all along, Manan has been an amazing leader since the beginning. She built this crazy team who was willing to sacrifice themselves for the greater good. I'm gonna start crying again. I can't work myself up like that again, guys. Let's take a break from the plot point and play part of the game. So we're gonna split up the game into 2 parts, okay? But this is gonna be the same game, and it's unhinged prompts. And we've kind of played a similar game before, but the prompts are always gonna be different. So it'll be fresh. All right, it'll be fresh, guys. Okay, so I'm gonna do 3 prompts for now. Who would be cast for the Real Housewives? Real Housewives is a reality TV show where, and I haven't watched most of these things, but I know about them, okay? So Real Housewives is women who stay at home and are usually like relatively rich, and it's a reality TV show about them just hanging out and like all the drama in between them. So who would be a housewife and cause a lot of drama to be entertaining on a show? After seeing this side of Manan, I could see Manan. I know, don't come at me, okay? Because you're going to be like, she's the queen of the Croakens now. What do you mean? Why would she be a housewife? She's not even living with Dorian. But the softer side of her, but then she's still feisty. Like, she'll probably, fight to not be a housewife, but let's say for a little bit, right? She was living in Adderland with Dorian, so then she's kind of a housewife. And then she would cause all this ruckus and drama with everyone else, being like, well, my 13 did it better. Like, Astrid was this. Like, don't do that. And then everyone would just be like, who does she think she is? Okay, guys, that might be a stretch, but can you think of a character who would be good for Real Housewives? Let me know. Second prompt. Who would win The Price is Right? So that is a show where you guess the price of the products or the packages that they're presenting to you. So it could be a boat or an island vacation. And then if you guess the closest price compared to your competitors, then, or if I think it has to be like within a certain range maybe, then you win the item. So who would go on that show and guess the Price is Right best? Who knows the value of stuff? I would say Rowan. So we were talking about how Rowan knew so much about the world, and he was just dropping things here and there, or he would just meet someone like Lysandra and immediately know what she is. So I think that was really cool, and I think he would be great for The Price is Right. He'd just be like, yeah, I know a thing or two, and then he'd just bam, and he'd get it right. And then he'd win something for Aelin. Aww. Okay, 3rd prompt for now. Who would win American Ninja Warrior? And I think Ninja Warrior is across the world, but And so it doesn't need to be American, but basically it's this crazy big convoluted obstacle course, and you have to be really physically strong and agile to get through the whole course. All these characters are so strong, but let's say that you can't cheat, okay? And cheating means that you're like flying over the whole thing. Like you actually have to go through the course, okay? So who would that be? Any of my man, when he gets in the mood for it, also like game face. Let's get back to the plot points. So Irene and Kale are back. And guys, did you see it coming how powerful Irene is? I mean, I already thought she was really, really cool in Tower of Dawn, where she's literally getting rid of Vogue, expunging Vogue from the people. But like, the way she comes in so clutch when she comes back, I mean, the extent to which she could actually get rid of Vogue from someone, whew, you know, literally bringing the light. Just like the 13. Okay, I'm not gonna cry. But Irene coming in so clutch yet again. I love that for her. Yes. Okay, the forging the lock. We've always talked about how Dorian is so empathetic, and so is Aelin. And now they're the two that have to be the ones to sacrifice. And it's wild because, guys, Dorian being like saying objectively that I'm the one who should sacrifice because I don't have anyone. Like Aelin has to rule this whole court, this kingdom, and has Rowan. I don't have anyone. It's like, no, you do. You have your circle, Dorian. I understand why he would say that, but it really hurts to hear it. They think it's between one or the other, so. And he also thinks that she sacrificed so much by being taken and tortured by Maeve. So he's like, you've done more than enough. It's my turn. And Aelin, being the woman that she is like, no, like, don't do that. You know, I love that she had more of a balanced approach where it's like, we'll find a way. Like, it's not just gonna be a sacrifice. But then obviously we later realized like that was kind of her front, and then she was realizing the only way was to sacrifice, and she was going to try secretly do it herself. But then he was also trying to secretly do it himself. So it's like, they're both outsmarting each other. It was crazy. It was sad. The final battle, guys. It was, to me, a little anticlimactic because we just had so many moments along the way where it was like the 13 sacrificing themselves. You know, that moment with the towers coming down and all that stuff, that was to me the biggest war scene out of this whole thing. So when we finally got to the end and then we get the reveal and with Aaron and Maeve and all that stuff, I don't see it as deep, I guess. You know? I don't know. What about you? Did the last battle scene really hit that deep for you? But I know that's kind of like an anticlimactic end for this episode too, but don't worry because it's not the end. It's not the end, guys, because now we talk about what after, right? The war, the scene itself, yes, that means the bad guys are gone, but what's next for all of the good guys? And that is where, again, we could see another sequel happening. I'd love is for when everyone goes their own ways. Oh, and it was so bittersweet and kind of cute, in my opinion, because by the end of the series, we have so many couples. To see all the couples, like, one by one, kind of, like, leave, and then Aelin and Rowan are just, like, gonna start living their domestic life and hosting all of them when they want to come back and visit. Like, it's so heartwarming and so cute, guys. I loved that. Let's do favorite moments and quotes. First one. Fireheart, why do you cry? Because I am lost and I do not know the way. Next one. A thread in a tapestry. That's what it had felt like the night she'd left the gold for Irene and Inarish. Like pulling a thread in a tapestry and seeing just how far and wide it went. Oh, beautiful. Our Aelin leaving all of her goodness all over the world and with a bunch of people. Two ordinary women who chose hope. And then Aelin saying to all of the females and then the males following, she's like, walk with me. She said in a previous book, I don't remember the exact quote, but she was like, I'm going to build an army of assassins, of thieves, of slaves, all these people. And she did. She freaking did. And now They're standing behind her and they're going to build this better world together. Oh, I love it. I love it. My heart is so warm after all of this. There was so much devastation, so much heartbreak, so much pain, but then almost also at the same time, so much healing, so much opportunity for positivity and growth going forward. Oh, guys, this is beautiful. This is such an epic, beautiful ending to our whole TOG series with our amazing Aelin and the whole crew that became by the end. Okay, let's end with another set round of unhinged prompts to lighten the mood. Well, I mean, that's kind of light already because of this positive hope that I have for their future that we don't get to see. Hopefully we get a spin-off at some point, or maybe like a cross, world thing like we're getting with Akatar, but, who knows, right? So, unhinged prompts, round 2. Who is the most meme-able character? Okay, M-E-M-E, meme-able character. Who's dropped these phrases that are just like, everyone would just like laugh at it. It would be so funny. Dorian again with the I'll believe whatever color you like. Ooh, the spice. Okay, second. Who would retire someplace in the middle of nowhere? Lysandra and Aedion. Just because after this whole battle and them holding the line for so long, I feel like they're just done. They want to be able to just be with each other. So, yeah, I can see that for them. And last, who would be the last to stand in Squid Games? And Squid Games is the Korean survival game where they basically go through a series of games where they might die, and then whoever survives in the end gets the prize money. The main strategy is you have to forge alliances along the way, but then eventually you're gonna have to break all of those alliances because you want to win, you need to survive. Who would be willing to do that? Maybe Arabin, but he's not. I feel like he wasn't smooth enough, Someone who all along you thought maybe they're just a morally gray character, and then later on you realize they have their own agenda and they're just gonna save themselves. I would say Maeve. Maeve would survive Squid Games. All right, now let's talk about our Alka submitted points. And this kind of helps us wrap up this whole series too, because one of her points is that even though there were evil people along the way, Arabin, Erewhon, Maeve, and they all wronged Aelin, in the end, it was still Lysandra and Irene who got to be the ones to get rid of them, to kill them. And so Aelin basically never got that final satisfying moment of I got my retribution. I was the one who was the final hero in the end. And that's exciting, actually. She's been our main character, of course, since the beginning. She's had really victorious moments and really satisfying moments, but even with the ultimate enemies, she still didn't have to be the one to do the final bidding. She could leave it up to other women, other females in this world who trust her, who are strong like her. I love that. I love that about Aelin, and I love that about this whole series and this world. SJM, I love that. Keep going with that. And then the last point that's going to wrap up this whole thing is that throughout this 8-book series, even though the books get thicker and thicker, each book has its own trope and its own setting, meaning that you're never bored, I guess. At least I wasn't. I was never feeling this is dragging, can we, explore somewhere else? It was always a different set of perspectives, even though, yes, technically, Aelin was always the main character, except for Tower of Dawn. Aelin was always, the main anchoring character, but it still felt like everything was fresh. New book, new characters. And sometimes, yes, it did feel a little overwhelming to keep track of all of the characters, especially the tertiary ones. But I feel like it was still worth it in the end because, like I said, we got so many beautiful couplings, so many opportunities for what's next for them? What's going to happen beyond King of Ash? What are the possibilities for all of these characters? And I just love that. But also the tropes were different. Your takeaways for each of the books in the series could be very different. Last episode with Tower of Dawn, the main takeaway for me was character growth with Kael and full circle moments in Empire of Storms for Aelin. In the Assassin's Blade, it was learning more about Aelin as an assassin and her understanding what love could be with Sam. When we meet Kale and Dorian in book 1, Throne of Glass, it's about young people kind of figuring out this world that they were just thrown into. This was such a beautiful, unique, powerful, impactful series. All the characters were so lovable. The tropes were built out properly such that I didn't feel like it was too dependent on the trope. The world itself was beautiful and unique, but I never felt like it was too much. Same thing with all the characters. Like, they are all unique and they had their arcs, but I didn't feel like anyone was like particularly replaceable. It just all added up. It was beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining me and joining us on this TOG journey. What are we looking forward to in our next episode? Let's do some modern romance, shall we, everyone? And with that, I'll see you all next week, besties. Bye.